Spanish riding school in the course of time. Lots to talk about. I choose the most important events in history of the Spanish riding school. And I would say we start with Ferdinand the First, who so Ferdinand the First, Spanish, grew up in Spain, then came or spent 3 years with his aunt in the Netherlands, and in 1521 he came to Austria to become Archduke of Austria. And he brought with him 200 Spanish horses, Gineten, how they were called. That was quite little when you look to other major events in the 16th century. It was, for example, in Worms, all the emperors and kings, had with them a couple of thousand horses. 200 was quite little, but that was actually the founding of the Spanish riding school. Very important for the history, not just for the Spanish riding school, but also for the history of Vienna and Austria, was the first siege of Vienna in 1529. The whole Europe was infected by influenced by that, not just the daily life, but art and other things, of course influenced by the first siege of the Ottoman Empire. Very important for Europe, for the classical art of riding, was for sure Federico Griso, or called Grisone. In 1532 he founded his riding school in Naples. And in 1533, Ferdinand I, or his staff, founded a Dutch stud farm in Himberg. That's not far from Vienna. And they kept their horses from Naples. It was called the Falkenhof, and one of the chief riders, Pedro de Rada. As you can see, the name is Spanish because Ferdinand I brought with him Spanish staff. All staff in charge for horse breeding, dogs, animals, all the court life was ran by Spanish staff. Spanish was spoken at the court in Vienna, not German. So chief rider Pedro de Rada ran this stud from 1541 till he died at 1549. Another chief rider at the Spanish riding school in 1535. Another one, Spanish, another one. And in 1540, Halbturnstadt was founded, a milestone for the Spanish riding school, because this Halbturnstadt became later one of the court studs in the Habsburg Empire. As we can see here, we heard that before, horses from Spain, Naples, and Turkish horses were used at this stud. This stud was later moved to Mönchhof. Chief rider Juan de Salazar, also Spanish, in 1541. Jakob Kramer von Walsee. Walsee is a small town in Lower Austria. He was one of the few Austrian chief riders at the Spanish riding school. Another milestone in history of the classical art of riding in Europe, Crisono published his Gli Ordinari di Cavalcare, the rules of riding, in 1550. Bartolomé Moretto, another chief rider. Antonio Moretto, two brothers, another chief rider. De Guinea, chief rider. Another very important date for the school was the founding of the Kladrupstad in 1560, the oldest court stud in Europe. Stahlburg, 5060, was built, was meant to be the residence of Ferdinand I, was never used as a residence, I would say quite Austrian. Another chief rider. And then Maximilian II, the oldest son of Ferdinand I, became Emperor of Austria, and of course he again imported horses from south of Italy and Spain. His brother Karl von Innerösterreich, von Inner Austria, founded later the stud in Lipica. In 1565, the Spanish riding school, the Stahlburg, was rebuilt, and since 1569, the horses of the Habsburg emperors reside there. First mention of the Spanish riding school in 1565. That's why we celebrated our 450th anniversary last year in July. It was a certain amount of money used for the Tummelplatz. That was right the square outside this building. That was the Rosstummelplatz or Tummelplatz. Juan Antonio Moretto, another Spanish chief rider. Florentin, another Spanish chief rider. Lipizzastadt was founded in 1580. Charles II, Archduke of Austria, of Inner Austria. Again, horses from Spain and Naples were used, and Arab horses. Antoine de Pluvinel, 1594. Académie d'équitation. Very important horse academy, as important as the one from Grisone in Naples, was founded in France. Le Manège Royal, one of the most influential literature in the classical art of riding, in 1623, with magnificent engravings, of course. Vincenzo Rizzi, Italian chief rider. Now the Italian riding or style of riding becomes important at the Spanish, or in Vienna, I would say all over Europe. And then in 1641 and 1642, there was the first thought of a covered arena to fulfill the needs of the classical training of horses. Because before, or at this time, to train in that climate we have here in Austria can be tricky sometimes. Of course, in summer it is not that big problem, but in winter, when it's snowing and frozen, then of course you have to quit the training, and then you have to wait for warmer weather. That's why in the 17th century they thought about a covered arena. Leopold I in 1654. del Campo, Italian. Then Leopold I, the marriage from Leopold I and Margarita Teresa, a Spanish princess, was one of the first carousels in the Hofburg. It was, I think it's called Schweizerhof. Dr. Kugler, I think it's called Schweizerhof where the wedding... Exactly, yeah. And the wedding took place in Easter, in absence of Margarita Teresa, Easter 1666. The wedding festivities lasted from beginning of December 1666 till beginning of Lent 1667. And this horse carousel, what you can see here on the picture, on the painting, took place in January. Spanischer Reitstall, first mentioned. Edith mentioned the term Spanischer. Yeah, the 6 in the 1672 was misinterpreted as a 5 for centuries. That's why we celebrated in 1972 the 400th anniversary of the Spanish Riding School. And Professor Mikolecki had brought out a treatise about this event, and he proved that this number was misinterpreted. That's why we went back in the archives and found it that 1565 was actually the original date for the founding of the Spanish Riding School. Cannibale Rocchi, another chief rider from Italy. First covered arena mentioned. So even before the winter riding school, there was a covered arena existing, I would say close to the Tummelplatz or in the neighboring parts of the Tummelplatz. So Leopold I, almost exactly 100 years after the foundation of the Lipizza Stadt, commissions a 2-Stöck, 2-floor building, basement, court riding school, first floor, court library. Second Siege of Vienna in 1683. The timber roof truss was finished, just the roof tiles were missing. So it was almost finished, the covered arena, and then it was destroyed by the Ottomans. So this is one of the most famous paintings, Giovanni Pietro Capitolo, the Royal Riding School, and it shows the diversity of the colors in the Spanish or Lipizzanas, where you have those piebalds and leopards and Isabels and bay, black, grey stallions at the school. Christoph von Regenthal, very important chief rider in the 18th century, beginning of the 18th century. This is quite remarkable. We talked about that before with Dr. Kugler. This is the chapel of Versailles Palace. And it is assumed that this chapel stood model to the winter riding school, because this chapel was consecrated in 1710. Yeah? And the son, the younger Fischer von Erlach, traveled frequently to Paris, and as I said before, it's assumed that this building, this chapel in Versailles Palace, stood model for the winter riding school. with all the colonnades and galleries. Charles VI, who was actually the most influential and I would say when it comes to opulence and classical writing and he was in I don't know the name in English now, but he was in concurrence to the French emperor or the French king, Louis XIV. And he actually built the Spanish writing school. There was another deed in 713. Some invoices state that the firewood was bought in Bavaria to produce bricks. And now the Winter Riding School, the most beautiful riding school in the world. 1729 to 1735. On September 14th, 1735, Emperor Charles VI, Empress Elizabeth Christine, Archduchess Maria Theresa, and her groom, Francis Stephen, Duke of Lorraine, honored the opening ceremony. Again, architect Johann Bernhard Fischer von Erlach and his son Joseph Emanuel Fischer von Erlach. Horse carousel, another painting or another photo of a painting from 1729, 12 figures of a horse ballet by Engelhard Löhneisen. Françoise Robichon de la Guérinière, directeur du manège de Thueyères, very important for the Spanish Riding School because we work after his philosophy. Still. L'École de Cavalerie was published by Françoise Robichon de la Guérinière. The School of Horsemanship was published in 1733. Important book on the training of the horse, detailed equitation, veterinary treatment and general horsemanship. Anton Schleichert von Wiesenthal, another chief rider, Adam von Weyrother, very influential. He also traveled frequently to Paris, and we assume that he had personal contact or even studied with de la Guérinière. Paul Schäfer, chief rider, 1735. Wagner von Wagenhofen, 1714 to 1758, chief rider. Kladrupstad burned down. Not just the building, but all the papers got lost in the fire. That was in 1757. The arrival of Isabel of Parma to Vienna held at the Schönbrunn Palace. In 1760, a marriage was arranged between Isabel and Archduke Joseph of Austria, heir to the Habsburg monarchy. Archduchess Maria Theresa at a ladies' carousel. Very, very famous painting by Van Meitens in honor of the regain of Prague. Pluto, 1765. Six classical sire lines in the Lipizan breed. Conversano, 1767. Another chief rider. Maestose in 1773, a grey stallion from Kladrup. Favori, a dun Spanish stallion from the Kladrupstad. Neapolitano, 1790, a bay Neapolitan stallion from the Polesina. Franz von Reiner, another chief rider. Karl Hübner, another chief rider. Piber, Federal Stud, was founded in 1798. Dedicated to the breeding of Lipizan horses since 1920. The primary breeding farm that produces the stallions used by the Spanish riding school. Piber Castle was formerly the Abbey of St. Lamprecht. Stud was created for the purpose of breeding military horses in 1867. It came under the governance of the Austrian-Hungarian Imperial Minister of Agriculture. Another Grand Carousel in 1803 in the winter riding school. And that's the last of the classical sire lines, Siglavi, a grey Arab stallion originally from Syria. Gottlieb von Weyrother. He actually started his riding career with the Archbishop in Salzburg, came later to Vienna and was chief rider in Vienna from 1810 to 1829. He trained at the famous Felsenreitschule, which is now a theater and opera house. Max von Weyrother, his brother, chief rider from 1813 to 1833. Very influential at his time. Josef Rieder, chief rider, 1820 to 1859. At the beginning of the 19th century, our current uniform was established at the Spanish riding school, influenced by Napoleon and his troops. It was our current uniform is Empire style. Empire was at the beginning of the 19th century. Ferdinand Burgstadt, very important chief rider from 1820 to 1843. Winter riding school, a view from Michaelerplatz, as you can read, corner of St. Michael's Square, right to the old Burgtheater. It's also called Hofburgtheater. Rittmeister Kampen, 1844 to 1851. Naderschi, 19th century chief rider. Matthäus von Niedermeyer, 19th century chief rider. Franz Gebhardt, he was chief rider at the end of the 19th century. Morning training from Ledeli in 1889. The morning training at the Habsburg monarchy, at the end of the Habsburg monarchy, was public, at least in parts. Johann Meixner, beginning of the 20th century, Piaf in the summer riding school, Lipizza is evacuated in 1915, beginning of World War I, all the horses were placed in Luxembourg, broodmares and foals, and Kladrup, 1-, 2-, and 3-year-olds. Austro-Hungarian Empire was broken up, with Lipizza becoming part of Italy. Post-war, horses divided up between Austria, Italy, and Czechoslovakia. The Austrian breeding stock was consolidated at Piber in 1920. Moritz Herold, 1917 to 1925, chief rider. Herold's memorandum, because there was, right after the monarchy, there was no money, and he was quite aware of that fact that he had to put up something to attract money for the Spanish riding school. So Chief Herold sent a memorandum of history, usage and future of the Spanish Writing School to Viribus Unitis, the most influential writing association in Vienna. And this Viribus Unitis forwarded this memorandum to the Minister of Agriculture in January 1919. Count Rudolf van der Straten Ponthotz became director 1921 to 1933. Ernst Lindenbauer, born in Upper Austria, was chief writer in 1926 to 1950. Was one of the trainers of Podhajski when he was a pupil at the Spanish Writing School. Wenzel Zrust, 1926 to 1940, chief writer here on the Bay Stallion Ancona in the Levade. By the way, the Levade and the courbette, how we see it today, is an invention by the Spanish Writing School, not the capriole. Gottlieb Pollack, chief writer, born in Kladruby, son of an employee, Hofgestützbeamter at the Kladrup court stud, developed a great fondness for horses from an early age. He was promoted to first chief writer in 1941. He was one of the great mentors of Podhajski before he went to the Olympic Games in 1936. But Podhajski didn't treat him very well in his book afterwards, not mention his name, but mention his horses. Lieutenant Frank, one of the foreign pupils at the Spanish Writing School, here's Juan Favre Montenegro, was Swiss. Prince Gustav Adolf from Sweden, the father of the current King of Sweden, was also pupil at the Spanish Writing School, here on the Lipizzaner Stallion in the summer riding school. Captain Taton, in the summer riding school of Vienna, he was ex-officer of the Cadre Noir, and after his assignment in Austria, he was granted the position of chief of the Army Equestrian School in Istanbul, Turkey. Maharaja von Mysore, this is first chief rider Wenzel Zrust. He went with 2 Lipizzaner stallions to India, traveled by train from Trieste harbor. The journey continued from Trieste by ship to Bombay and from there again by train to Mysore. Chief rider Zrust traveled with the stallions and spent a couple of months in Mysore, including the 4 weeks journey, training the staff of the Maharaja and the 2 stallions. He didn't want to return anymore because life was there much better in India under the Maharaja than in Austria. Much nicer. So he wanted to stay, but the Minister of Agriculture called him back and ordered him back to the Spanish Riding School. By the way, the Maharaja of Mysore built a barn specially for those, or he built actually 2 barns, 2 stables for those 2 Lipizzaner stallions, one for the day and one for the night. Major Podhajski wins bronze at the Olympic Games in 1936 on his thoroughbred gelding Nero. Johann Neumeier, chief rider, 1938 to 1945. Podhajski became director of the Spanish Riding School in 1939. He then stayed until 1964. And as you can see, from 1933 to 1934, he was pupil at the Spanish Riding School, training with Pollack, Soest and Lindenbauer. German army takes over. That was at the June 18th, 1939. Hitler was not there himself, but he was represented by the mayor of Vienna and the field marshal and a colonel general and some generals. Piber evacuated in 1942. During World War II, the High Command of Nazi Germany transformed most of Europe's Lipizan and other breeding stock to Hostor, Czechoslovakia. By spring of 1945, the horses of Hostor were in danger from the advancing Soviet army. Exile in Wales, 1945 to 1955. 10 years in Upper Austria. Operation Cowboy, that was on April 28th, 1945. As the rescue was known, resulted in the recovery of 1,200 horses, including 375 Lipizans. In charge was General George Patton and Colonel Charles Reed. Lipizan stallions in Wels. That was the winter riding school in Vienna, used as a storage facility for the opera. This was in 1950. Franz Rohowanski, chief rider. He went later to the Netherlands. Atjan, you know that, right? To the Van Dorne family, and then to England. Was an international trainer. This is a picture of 1955. Stallions are led from the winter riding school to the Stallburg. Johann Irbinger, chief rider in 1957 to 1969. Here, executing the long rein. State visit. Shah Reza Pahlavi from Iran. We're here on the photo with our president, with the president of Austria, Scherf, and of course Colonel Potaisky. Miracle of the White Stallions. Disney movie. Robert Taylor is playing Alois Potaisky in the movie. That was in 1962. Miracle of the White Stallion, March 1963. The film was released by Walt Disney, directed by Arthur Hiller, starring Robert Taylor, Lily Palmer, and Eddie Albert. It's the story of the evacuation of the Lipizan horses from the Spanish riding school in Vienna during World War II. Madison Square Garden in 1964. 25,000 spectators in one performance. And this Conversano Bayer was donated by Colonel Potaisky to the US Army on behalf of the Austrian government. Handler became director from 1964 to 1974. Here with Neapolitano Strana in London. Josef Weipold, one of the chief riders. Ignaz Lauscher, one of the great chief riders at the Spanish riding school. Georg Wahl, who was chief rider at the school from 1967 to 1971. He was at the school twice. First in the 40s, then from 67 to 71. Trained later, Olympic champion Christine Stückelberger. The shooting of the film Meierling with Ava Gardner and Omar Sharif at the Spanish Riding School in 1968. Her Royal Highness Queen Elizabeth II is visiting in 1969, and Princess Anne as a pupil at the same year. Now, or here on Siglivibea, the horse from Colonel Hunter. Olympic Games in Munich. Chief Pareida Bachinger and Sigliavi Modena at the farewell party after the Olympic Games in 1972. Colonel Kurt Albrecht became director after Handler's death, tragically, during a performance on his stallion Siglivibea in 1974. Arthur Cotas, 1981 to 2002, chief rider, here in Arles, at Arène Arles, on tour. Norbert Schaucher, here in front of the White House, in the gardens of the White House, and with President Ronald Reagan. Chief Rider Eichinger, here on the long rein, working maestoso. Adjan, who's that? Palmyra. Yes, maestoso Palmyra. Ladies Carousel in 1982. Klaus Grisch, 1990 to 2013. Johann Riegler, since 1991, chief rider here in a courbette, executing the courbette with Favori Superba, the sire of Adrians Hopp. Favori trompeter, right? Right. Buckingham Palace, a private performance for the Queen. Was a personal wish. When we toured London, she invited us to do a private performance at Buckingham Palace. Outsourcing of the Spanish Riding School. That's the current situation. Now we have, in 2001, we're still government owned, and that's the current situation. Wolfgang Eder, 2002, became chief rider in 2002. Myself in 2007. Mrs. Gürtler became, on December 1st, 2007, first female director of the Spanish Riding School. Hannah Zeitelhofer in 2008, first female élève in history of the school. That's one of the morning training situations. And UNESCO Intangible Cultural Heritage in 2015. The Spanish Riding School, or the Classical Horsemanship, and the High School of the Spanish Riding School, Vienna, was listed on the international list of the UNESCO. That's actually the finish. I looked up what the term classical means, and it says classical is perfect, balanced, in form and content, mature, putting standards, tried and true, has long been used.